let's dive straight in. What's your first tip you've got for us today?
Okay, well, this may seem obvious to some people, maybe less obvious to other people, but that every teacher, no matter what age you teach and what subject you teach, should make the teaching of literacy a high priority for themselves. And that includes, I said, every subject. So it includes, PE teachers and maths teachers who may go, yeah, but that's not my priority because I'm a PE teacher or a maths teacher. But fair enough. That's true. And obviously it has to be done in a way that is sympathetic to the fact that if you're teaching PE, like a lot of the time, you should be teaching PE, running around teaching kids how to move and stuff. If you're doing maths, similarly, neither of them are subjects that have a great deal of narrative around them. However, and obviously a geography teacher or a history teacher or obviously a primary school teacher will spend more of their time teaching literacy because their subjects lend itself to that, and that's fine. But even if you're a PE teacher, you should use some of the time, and I'm talking like 2-3 minutes a day, a lesson rather. So I'm not saying a long time, and yes, most of the time you should be doing physical things and learning physical things, but when you can, you should use those opportunities. So, for example, I'm going to give you an example. If you're a PE teacher, you learn, and I'm sorry, while I check my notes here, so if I'm looking that way, I am checking my notes. You have to learn about components of fitness. You learn about them at GCSE, but obviously you can learn about them in Key Stage 3, you can learn about them in Key Stage 2. You can begin to learn about them in Key Stage 1. So one of those is agility. So if you're going to learn about agility, here's a definition, which I'm obviously going to read. Agility is the ability to move and change direction and position of the body quickly and efficiently while under control. It requires quick reflexes, coordination, balance, speed, and correct response to a changing situation. So there's a definition. Obviously, it needs to be unpacked and explained and so on and so forth. But here's an example of we can help children with illiteracy, which will pay dividends in every subject and will pay massive dividends in terms of life chances for our students. We can do that in every subject by where it fits in and doesn't undermine the key purpose of a subject. We can get children reading. So how I would do that as a PE teacher, I want them to know about agility. I will read the sentence. I will read, agility is the ability to move and change direction and position of the body quickly and efficiently while under control. So I will read that really well. I will model how to read that really well. And then we will read it together as a class. We'll all read it together as a class, and then we might go, and now turn to your partner and read it. Now I'm going to read it again. Now anyone wants to volunteer to read it? That's it. Then you go off and you do your normal PE stuff. So you're just going, I'm not going to tell you a definition, we're actually going to read it. In maths, I don't think reading out definitions of what a denominator is particularly helpful. I mean, you can do it, but I don't see that's where maths teachers can do their bit for literacy. I'm not saying don't do it, but I don't think that's the key thing, because actually those definitions, if you try and say a denominator, the definition's harder than the concept, frankly.
Yep.
But what you can do is, those word problems that kids, they go, but sir, but is it an ad? You have this big word problem like, but is it an ad, sir? Okay. And one of the reasons why kids find word problems, they might understand the operations, but they don't understand how to apply the math onto this wordy word problem, is because of something called prosody. So prosody is the sound, tone and pace with the music, if you like, of language. And different genres of writing have different prosodies. So if I read a story, that will have a different, once upon a time, a different sound and tone to if I'm reading a piece of non-fiction or, an explanation in science example, or a maths problem. Now, the thing about maths problems is nobody reads them for pleasure. Well, maybe you do, Craig, but very few people read them for pleasure, and you never hear them read out loud. And actually, you need to know how they sound, because how they sound in English, lots of languages, there's lots of stuff that isn't in the text that indicates which words to stress and which words are important. And there's nothing written that tells you that. You just sort of pick it up. So, you know, I should have written down a maths problem to read out loud, and I haven't. So bad preparation on my part. But it might have something like, Craig has £10. I want to add the word each. Of course, I thought of a really crappy word problem now. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But, you know, each sweet he wants to buy costs I'm doing it really wrong. I can't think of a word problem off the top of my head. But there's words like each or every or in total or that in a sentence, in a word problem, or you would stress those words. Craig has 5 biscuits. He wants to give each of his friends 1 biscuit each. He has, I don't know, 5 friends. So that's a really easy word problem. But you know what I mean? There's things like each of his friends. He has 5 biscuits. You need to know how to stress those words in the sentence in order for it to make sense. And then people aren't going to learn to do that unless you as a teacher read it out in real pantomime style. And intuitively, we as sort of experts know which words to stress. There's one about, about a calendar and how many days are there in November, December, and December. And it's like, because we want to know it's all of them together. And these are when children do maths problems, they don't read the problem, not because they can't read the words. They know the words, but they don't understand the sentence because they're not used to the prosody. They're not used to reading it as a maths problem. So I'm really sorry. I should have picked out a maths problem today. I've given as an example, and I'm failing terribly to think of one. But you get the idea. So as a maths teacher, not every lesson, not every, from hours and hours and hours, but for a couple of minutes, I'm going to read you the question out loud, and I'm going to pantomime reading it in my best, performance voice, and then we're going to practice it. We're going to maybe chorally read it all together, and then maybe we do another one, just so that we get used to hearing the sound of sentences. So that's my top tip, literacy for everybody.
I love it. Right, let's dig into this a little bit. So the first thing to say is, Claire, I am clueless. One thing I'm completely clueless about is reading. And we had Chris Such on the show, and he's given me a good kind of lesson and overview. So I'm all over it now. So this is right up my street, what you're talking about. So a couple of things to say. I see, when you say literacy to me, and I think with my maths teacher hat on, I think of 2 problems immediately spring to mind that students tend to struggle with. So one is whenever you ask students to write longer form prose-based answers to maths problems, they struggle. So, explain why, discuss, describe. Students really struggle on that. And I find that really hard to help students out with. The second is maths is full of technical language, and a lot of it, you get these polysemous words that, obviously mean different things in maths than they do in the rest of the world, like similar and frequency. They're problematic. But I've never thought to do that before, what you're speaking about there, the word problems, and they are a massive problem for kids, exactly as you say. Whenever you show them how to do it, they say, if I'd have known that, I would have been able to do it. But of course, the skill is knowing, how to do it in the first place. I've never thought to read it out loud like that. It's always like the things on the board. And I always say to the students, okay, read the problem, highlight the keywords and so on. But I've never kind of stepped in there myself as, a so-called expert to read it out. So I really, really like that idea. So that's in the bank now. I'm just wondering, with that kind of communication style thing, any thoughts on that? How can I get my kids better at the written form of literacy, if that makes sense?
Well, the key thing is, and I'm sure you've had this before, they can't say it, they can't write it. They need to be able to, they need to be encouraged to say it, and all the usual tricks of how can we say it, talk partners. So, thank you, Amanda, that was great, can we make it better? So pushing for the best the best sentence, even said orally, and then writing that down, and then you can write it down. And the other thing is, there's an idea, this is one of Doug Lamont's one, I can't remember what it's, he's got obviously some buzzword of what it's called, but the idea of just get them to write. It doesn't matter if it's a bit crap, get them to write whatever it is, and it's not very good, and that's fine. So it goes, denominator, what's a denominator, or what's a fraction? It's when you put it in bits. Okay, that's fine. That's a starting point. It is when you get it in bits. Now can we work on that? Now, it's when you get to we usually say bits, you say parts. Okay, so is it just parts? No, it's about equal parts. And, and bit by bit, you can go back and back and back and back and back. And just for a little time, using whiteboards. Whiteboards are great. Kids will write on whiteboards, which they don't like for some reason. They just like the fact that if it's wrong, it doesn't matter on a whiteboard. If it's in a book, it's like, oh no, it's got to be perfect, and that hampers them. So speak it, write it, or even sometimes write it down. Even if you're really reluctant, write something. I don't care if you just write fraction, bits, parts, thing, half. I don't know, and then we'll talk, and then go back to your writing, write a bit more. Then we'll talk some more, write a bit more. So that back and forth, and I think it was Doug Lamov. It's like it's David Didos talked about this with game as well. It's like a 0 to 5K approach. You're building writing stamina. That we're not going to be frightened of this. We're going to write for 10 seconds. Like everyone is going to be writing whatever you write. It can be. I don't just have a go.
That's nice. Absolutely love that one. That's brilliant.